art is a spiritual technology.
Wherever I go, I can be like, okay, this is north, this is south because of Detroit.
All these cultures that are inside the city are what I like to put on a plate.
Stories and fantasies that last always have truth to them.
Detroit is the Black story.
This is Container on the Metro, hosted by me, Tia Graham. This series highlights Detroit creatives exploring their worlds through community and artistry. Let's say what up, though, to Chef Jermond Booze.
My name is Jermond Booze. I am the co-founder of Vinyl Tastings. I am the culinary manager for the Detroit Food Academy, and I am a chef.
Jermond Booze, professionally known as Chef Booze or simply Booze, was born and raised in Arkansas and has turned Detroit into home. His Southern roots are foundational to who he is and the way he views food as a conduit for larger conversations. Through hosting music-themed dinners, mentoring kids, and winning Chopped, Booze has become instrumental in Detroit's food scene. Like his mother and so many family members, he graduated from the historic Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas. The same school is known for the Little Rock Nine, the brave young Black kids that integrated the school in 1957. He says he didn't understand the significance and role his family played in the civil rights movement in Arkansas until he was an adult.
I started to see how engaged and involved my family was in the civil rights movement, and just even where I was sitting at and living at, how much it was impacted by everything that had happened over all that time, including going to Little Rock Central High School, which you can find movies about, books about, and knowing that my mother walked through that same building 2 years after it was integrated, and that her brother fought people every day as they went to school, that people threw bricks at them when they went to school, that they would call the N-word repeatedly when they went to school. And it was even weirder, too, because it's something that, like, my parents, my mom didn't even really think to talk about, you know what I mean? Because it was just like a part of her past. But the impact, how monumental it is and transformational it is like hard to put into words.
Growing up as an only child on his mother's side, his cousins were central to his love of music. And as a child, Booze played various instruments and grew up in a rhythm and poetry home. He describes the first time his cousins did something so magical, they burned a CD, and on it was something he had never heard before, something that would set him on a course north to Detroit.
I grew up in a very hip-hop based family, right? I didn't have any immediate brothers or sisters around, so my older cousins were really my musical ears, and we loved East Coast hip-hop. And when Dilla kind of came on, is like when Napster was about, right? So what happens is, I'll never forget this moment in my life, but my cousin came to my house, was like, check out the CD, and he plays it for me, and it's just like all music I never heard, because he had burned the CD. And he told me he made it, and my mom was like, what just happened? You made a CD with music you got off the internet? It was like the crate, but on it though was The Look of Love and Players. And when I say it was the most melodic, hypnotizing, and I played a bunch of instruments as a kid, and so I had this, I love music in a bunch of capacities that other people didn't understand. So just hearing just everything about it was I had a Tribe Called Quest t-shirt on last night. So it's that's my vibe, you know what I mean? So when I heard them at 16, that's that age to when it's bam.
Yeah, and it hits you differently at that age.
So I moved here as a result of that.
For Booze, connecting music with food came naturally. He moved to Michigan, chasing the sounds of Jay Dilla, graduated from Eastern Michigan University, studying dietetics and African American studies. And combined with his previous culinary degree, Booze wanted to find ways to make a mark in Detroit. He wanted to put his passions on a plate. And in 2022, he was able to see that come to life. Vinyl Tasting is the brainchild of Booze and personal chef and curator Amber Beckham. Amber says she connected with Booze instantly.
Well, the Vinyl Tasting came about for both of our mutual love of music and food, and having that as a storytelling and connecting people through that. We believe that, it could be more than just a meal. It can bring on a new experience that sparked conversation, that made people feel nostalgia or emotion. And we thought pairing food and vinyl records with some iconic albums was like the perfect way to bridge both of those gaps, essentially.
For folks who've never been, what would a night be like for a vinyl tasting?
Yeah, so the vinyl tasting, for people who are new to us, is a multi-course dinner and wine experience where each dish and wine is inspired by a particular song from whatever album that we choose. And we like to say guests aren't just eating, they're tasting the story of the music through the food. It's intimate, immersive, it's soulful. It blends, flavors and textures and sounds and celebrates culture and artistry, and hopefully in a new way for people to experience.
Listening to Chef Amber, I was curious to know how they prepare the menu. I caught up with Chef Booze in one of the community kitchens above Detroit People's Food Co-op. I asked what his process is when formulating new dishes to pair with particular songs. All right, so what are you preparing right now?
So today we're gonna do like my first run through for a dish for my next dinner. Mm-hmm. So, we do music themed dinners, and we're gonna do an album, which is my favorite album of all time, A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Riders. And from that album, like, I seriously love that album. So this song is actually lyrics to go. And on the song, if you listen to it, it's like the beat comes on and the melody is just Minnie Riperton hitting one note. And I was like, okay, well, I want to make a Minnie Riperton based dish. You know what I mean? Because I love the complexity of music, you know what I mean? So I'm doing something kind of inspired by Minnie Riperton in particular. And I was doing a little research on her, and she's actually from Chicago.
Oh, not Midwest.
And I was like a little surprised by that. So I said I would do like something Chicago inspired, but also something kind of summertimey, because it's hot, as you can tell. Uh-huh. So this particular dish is going to be, and when I looked at Chicago food, they have a large Caribbean population. And I love doing jerk. I love doing diaspora food. So these will be jerk scallops with a corn puree. And then we'll do a little mild sauce, right, on to go with it, a mild jus. And then I'm gonna finish it off with a crispy potato haystack, and then some pickled onions.
Booze has worked in several restaurants and kitchens across the country, ultimately finding a creative outlet with vinyl tasting. And Booze uses his education of African American studies, making it a point to research and pair flavors that add to the stories he's telling on the plate. Usually in Detroit, people hold multiple jobs or side hustles, and Booze is no different. During the pandemic, Booze received an opportunity to work with Detroit Food Academy, a nonprofit teaching kids cooking skills. The free after-school program was his way of giving back to the community, yet it has blossomed into so much more. He's working to make sure the next generation has a sense of community through food.
My name is LaJanvia Squires. I know Jermond because we work together as facilitators and at Detroit Food Academy. We do mentorship with youth. Youth are very dialed into their emotions. We spent a great deal of time learning about social and emotional learning and the importance of being socially equipped to speak to your emotions and what that impact and that vulnerability means for youth when you're mentoring them. Like, they give you a space to be honest as well. And so embodying that of like, oh, okay, these youth are being vulnerable with us. I can be vulnerable with you. And now we've built a trusting relationship where you calling me when you need anything. I'm like your go-to person. And that's the power that he's been able to create at the time that he's been with Detroit Food Academy and the time that him and I have gotten to work together.
Booze works full-time at Detroit Food Academy and says working with the kids has been an eye-opening experience that he cherishes. He says he loves to see his kids becoming more outgoing.
For me, I catch these kids at 14, 15. So I'm watching them go from like the insecure, shy, and I guess one of the things I'm most proud of is that we create community for these kids, these youth. And I think like we live in a world where like a lot of after school programs just don't exist. A lot of opportunities to engage with. So if you're not an athlete sometimes, if you're not necessarily doing one of like, we got 4 programs that you can do after school. So if you don't fit in those 4 programs, then where do you fit in? You don't have the after school, you don't have them additional connections. And what I'm most proud of is like definitely just saying that like me, my co-facilitators, my co-workers at the Detroit Food Academy are really good at creating a space for the youth who don't have a space.
Chef Booze has found a way to spread his love of food and understanding of the African diaspora through mentorship of young people. And becoming a mentor, he began to think about how the food in Detroit connects to cuisines from different African countries. This idea that food we eat within Black culture was created here in the States due to enslavement may hold some truth, but a lot of dishes and culinary techniques survived the Middle Passage, adapted during enslavement, and took root in Black American communities throughout the generations. Yet, simply not understanding how food connects back to Africa has been lost on so many in this country. The suppression of information was orchestrated and nearly successful. He has visited the continent of Africa multiple times, including 2 trips to Cameroon. And like so many Black Americans, the idea of being connected to a larger African community can often get lost in translation. Booze wants to give people access to ancestral knowledge not lost, just transformed.
I realized how intentional it was that we were kept from our own history. And it's like, we know this because we don't know our language. We don't know what culture we belong to. We don't know, I didn't know, I don't think the majority of African Americans tell you much about their African origins or ancestry. But I think when I really started looking at the food and realizing I know about French food, I know about French culture, I know about Indian food, right? I know about all, but I don't know about African food and African culture. And as a Black American, I remember having a ton of different emotions because I realized how intentional that was, how much had been kept from us. But again, like in many other spaces, the food for me was the thing that was kind of opening my eyes as to what was going on.
Each dish tells a story for him.
That's Chef Phil Jones. He's a pillar in Detroit's food scene, focusing on sustainability and community building. Through the years working together, Booze and Phil affectionately call each other father and son, a connection representing their shared respect and admiration.
One of the things that I think is extremely important when you're looking at Chef Booze and his food work and his community work is his intentionality. It's more than just food. It is about community. It's about the flavors. It's about where it comes from in your heart. It's about what does the emotional impact of the meal mean to a person. And so it takes the dining experience and moves it beyond just eating and into contemplation, into self-reflection. And it also leads to connections because some of the stories that accompany the food are very, very much relatable to the average person. And in a society where the Black man is under attack, to see a strong Black man creatively expressing himself is just a phenomenal thing. And I think that people need to be on the lookout and eagerly anticipate the things that I'm anticipating. I'm curious to see what will happen next.
As Chef Phil explains, Booze is a student of his craft who exposes cultural connections with each bite. Through it all, Chef Booze's love of music, food, and giving back has turned into more than passion projects. The work he has done has created a new lane for him and others to follow. Oftentimes, people equate Detroit's cuisine with coney dogs and pizza. Yet Chef Booze says there's more to it than that. He says Detroit's cuisine is as unique as the people who live here.
When I try to represent the Detroit food, I try to represent all aspects of Detroit for how I see it. I love combining our cultures because we have the largest Middle Eastern population in the world. How do we not become brothers and sisters? How do we not have the same obstacles and barriers and not realize that combined we're that much stronger, right? So I do a jollof infused hummus, right? or I do plays on Kofta, or I do, it's like, because our food is a way to bridge gaps and to move our relationships forward. But my food, I want it to be representative of all these cultures. When you learn about the three sisters from the Native Americans and you think about their obstacles and their battles, I feel like that's what Detroit food really is, are the people, the culture, the whether it be before colonization or whether it be today, all these cultures that are inside the city are what I like to put on a plate.
To keep up with Chef Jermond Booze, you can follow him on Instagram at jermond.booze and Jermond Booze on Facebook. Learn more about vinyl tasting on Instagram at vinyltasting_ and on Facebook at Vinyl Tasting Detroit. Container is a project of the Love Building in Detroit in collaboration with WDET and supported by the Gilbert Family Foundation. The series is produced by Connor Anderson, Jose Yanis, and me, Tia Graham. Original music's by Sam Bobian, audio editing by Connor Anderson, and our executive producer is David Lyons. To hear new episodes every Monday, subscribe to the Metro's podcast feed on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Learn more at WDET.org/container.